And here we are, blessed by the sound, apparently, of an underwater cameraman. It's like Jacques Cousteau here at VTTV Towers tonight. There's a funny noise somewhere on Skype. We don't know what it is, but it's one of those things, and we hope that it won't interrupt too much. But as you can see, tonight, here on VT Talk, I have there are three Skype-in calls. Over, by God, that one is loud. Over in the left of the screen, as you will see it, is the effervescent loveliness, the ebullient bounciness. That is Sav, making a very, very welcome return. How you diddling, cock? All right, how was Jockland?
It wasn't too bad, but I came back full of germs.
Full of germs?
Full of germs, so if I sneeze, I apologise in advance.
We can't be having that. We just can't be having that. In the monitor next to Sav is a face that will be new to everybody, but won't be for very much longer. Because this is a man called John Spring, who is, what's your official title now, John, in ECCA?
Official title, Vice Chairman. That's my official title.
So you're in charge of the Vice at ECCA?
Yes, which was the best job I could find, I thought.
The gathering up of the mucky women.
Excellent.
Speaking of which, in the next monitor beside me, we have the mucky woman of ECCA. Are you not? Well, no, it's not. Strictly speaking, that's not fair. Lorien, how are you doing since last we saw you?
I'm all right. I'm liking my new job title.
Which is?
Well, Mucky Woman of the ECCA. That sounds quite interesting.
It strikes me that there's now been an official post created, the official Mucky Woman of ECCA, who is with us here tonight on the one and only programme called VT Talk. And we're back live in the room. Now, let me state from the very outset, I had a show planned out. From start to finish, where we're going to be talking about various different things, which we're still going to cover. What I hadn't reckoned with was that, I don't know what time it was, about 3 o'clock, Lorien, when I got hold of you?
Yeah.
The first of the amendments to the draft Tobacco Products Directive proposal started getting published, and there are now some 660 pages of amendments to the Tobacco Products Directive that have been published on the Envy website at the European Parliament website. So naturally enough, between 3 o'clock and now, we've all been reading at least some of them. Trust me on this one, it's a bit like War and Peace. So what I thought we would do, just have a little general natter. There's 1 or 2 bits of video to have a look at, and then probably in part 2 or part 3 we'll get into the amendments, because there's some interesting stuff in there, and I've got some pleas to make of all kinds of folks, and I think they'll be echoed by everybody sitting here. So let's just kind of kick off with the whole ECCA thing. John, Vice Chairman, brand new, not a face I know I have to say, but I don't think we've ever met. When did you get elected? What are you going to be doing? What's happening with ECCA? Bring us up to speed, because I think this is a new beginning, a new start. Episode 3.
I mean, formally, I haven't been elected. It has to be said, I was co-opted onto the committee, and about 12 days ago. It's that fresh. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot going on. Obviously, I don't know if everyone's seen. Chris has stepped down as secretary. He spent 2 years along with Sam, bringing ECCA to where it is now, and spent a lot of time and focused a lot on the advocacy side of things, and putting out a lot of information. Some of it in his own special way, looking at the ways that people go about their business, particularly in politics and Europe.
Indeed, yes.
And he's stepped aside, and there's myself, there's Lorien, there's a few others. There was briefly Mr. Shaw, who you've had on here as well.
Yes.
And we're looking now to to not abandon the advocacy, because obviously that's still important, but to place more focus on consumer rights side of things, consumer affairs. We've got a lot of work to do in pulling that all together, and we're right at the start of that journey.
Indeed.
That's where we are, really.
Yeah. So, Lorien, again, you're a forum rep, are you not?
Yes, I am. Yeah, for my sins, I'm for UKV.
And what are you looking to be bringing to the table on all of this? Because what I keep hearing from other people that I'm talking to is that, you know, we've got two damn good people sat in the studio, well, in the Skype bits of the studio right now. I'm hearing nothing but good things about the pair of you, and I'm interested to hear what you've got in mind, what the vision for the future is, where you're going to be taking ECCA, because my own feeling is that ECCA is a very, very valuable resource for the consumers. So, Lorien, you first. What do you see the future? What do you think you're going to bring to it, and all of that kind of stuff?
Well, there's a lot to be done, to be honest with you. I mean, we are kind of starting afresh, in a sense that yes, like as John said, the advocacy side is important, but we also, there's a lot of people out there using devices, whether you want to call them e-cigarettes or vaporized or PVCs or whatever. They have yet to kind of find a resource where they can go to and find information, find out about product recalls, about safety, about general vaping advice. There's only a small proportion of users actually on the internet and using forums and all that kind of stuff. Most people are still kind of out there in the world or have even yet to discover it. And we need to be somewhere where people can come to have unbiased information, be that scientific reports, be it things in the media, be it safety reports on things. That's kind of the service that we've got to provide. And
do you between the two of you, just jump in when you're ready, do you see yourselves fighting the corner when the likes of what we've seen from the Daily Fail comes up? And I've got no intention of covering the Daily Mail piece tonight, because there's only so much blood pressure I can actually take, and I've only got 45 mil. I've used all the 72 up going through the amendments. You think I'm joking? I'm not. Where was I? Yeah, so the likes of the Daily Fail, I presume ECCA will take, if you like, an official stance and actually go in with the science and do the rebuttals and kind of speak for the consumers. John, we'll go to you.
The Daily Mail, to give it its correct title, yes.
If you must.
I mean, one of the things that we do want to provide is a service for the press themselves. So that we've got a one-stop shop, if you like, for the press to come to get information from us. But when we see things that are out there that are, shall we say, crap, for want of a better phrase, we will be looking to put our position forward and writing to newspapers, media, and getting the official ECCA stance. Representing the consumer in all its various flavours. Good.
That's all good stuff. That's excellent. Actually, let's go from there into one of the pieces that some people might not have seen. This is the Al Jazeera piece that was on. Now, you've seen it, haven't you, John?
Briefly, yes.
Briefly. Have you seen it, Lorien?
I have, yes.
Right, good. So we're all singing off the same page, and I know Sav can see it as it's going out. Now, those of you that don't have skyboxes and all these clever toys that tell you over the interwebs and off to your phone and stuff like that might not have seen this, but Al Jazeera did a piece, and I picked it up from Twitter, and at first my blood was boiling. And watch it and we'll talk about it when it's finished. It's not too badly balanced, I don't think, but let's have a look and see how it goes.
Smoking is still popular in France, despite the well-known health risks. But like elsewhere in Europe, there are fewer and fewer places where you are allowed to light up. Which is why the idea of electronic cigarettes is catching on fast. They're marketed as a cheaper, safer alternative to the real thing. It's estimated that at least 500,000 French people are now using them.
70% of people coming here want to stop smoking. They already tried with other methods that did not work, or they never had enough courage to try stop smoking. And the others, they don't want to stop smoking. They want to be able to smoke inside, and they want to lower their consumption of real cigarettes.
A battery in the metal tube heats up a sponge soaked in nicotine solution and makes the tip of the device glow. You inhale the nicotine vapour and exhale a thin plume of what looks like smoke. So on first sight, it seems like the answer to all a smoker's problems. It looks like a cigarette, it tastes like a cigarette, but without any of the disadvantages of a cigarette. But in reality, it may not be quite that simple. Recent studies have found small traces of poisonous substances in e-cigarettes, and the French health minister has ordered a thorough investigation. Politicians and doctors say there should be controls on how the cigarettes are made and where they are sold.
We need to have a regulation to protect the children, because if new children start to smoke, to use this product, they could become addicted to nicotine and after to be a smoker.
The World Health Organization estimates that smoking kills more than 5 million people a year. Most experts believe that e-cigarettes are less dangerous than conventional smoking, but anything that keeps people addicted to nicotine must be questioned. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Now that was, sorry about that echo, what can I tell you, I was so taken by it. That was the Al Jazeera take on it. Now, Lorien, you've seen that. What's your initial reaction to it? What did you pick out that was daft?
Well, I think there's the obvious daft bit, which I actually think, for me, is what I took from the whole piece, regardless of the information from it. You had a woman there who'd obviously been given a script. She'd been told to go somewhere to talk about e-cigs. She had arrived there to do her spiel about cigarettes, only to find herself confronted with egos and cleros, and yet she still had to go through that process of standing there looking like an idiot with a bright red ego and a clero, saying that it looked like a cigarette. And I think not only for her, probably everybody on her crew and everybody who's watched that will go, well, hold on a second, they're clearly not the same thing. And I think, apart from all the information and all that kind of stuff, there's a bit of news. It's an interesting look at the fact that there is a big disparity between what people are being told and what is actually happening. And that red ego moment, I think, really showed that up.
Oh, I think it showed it up absolutely brilliantly. I mean, I here have something that looks exactly like a cigarette. Honestly, I mean, if that looks like a cigarette, then I look like George Clooney. Sav, quiet. We know you think I do. And seriously, she should have gone to Specsavers. There's no two ways about that. John, what was your take on it?
Well, again, my favourite moment watching that was the red ego with it looks just like a cigarette. I mean, we've got the same stuff being said. I thought it was quite positive to start with, sort of, but then we get into the same normal spiel that comes out. It probably was pre-scripted. The studies with the toxic substances, the addiction to nicotine, etc., and we do need to be looking at how we combat that sort of information that's getting put out, the myths and misperceptions of our little hobby here. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, that whole bit, yes, I get the heavy metals thing, but yes, that's already been rebutted, and we probably need to use what Dr. Vassilinos was saying and get that out there and get people to understand that there's a difference between something existing and it being a problem, because as everybody ought to know, poison is in the dosage. So where we stand at the minute, I actually have a deadly nightshade tree out in the back garden, and I know not to eat a berry off that, because the likelihood is it will do me in. Same with foxgloves, same with laburnum, same with an awful lot of things. Yet all of those things, foxgloves being digitalis, nicotine from deadly nightshade, and I forget what it is that comes out of laburnum, are used therapeutically or as stimulants or whatever it happens to be. Caffeine, actually, there was a case not so long ago, a guy ate a spoon of raw caffeine and died. Hardly surprising. his heart just went crackers, and as it would, because it's a massive stimulant. But yeah, I mean, the heavy metals thing, again, all of these things we can rebut, and we probably need to. The bit that really got to me, though, is the French doctor. The children might take up an electronic cigarette and get addicted to the nicotine, and then perhaps go on and smoke the cigarettes. Yeah, if you don't allow flavouring, you might be right. But I can't think of one, in fact, I can't think of a vapour, even in this exalted company, that would want to go to cigarettes. But what are you using now, Lorien? What are you actually vaping on?
I've got Dean's Creme Brulee.
Very nice. John?
Coconut, hazelnut and caramel, I think.
Right. I don't ask Sav, but I'm going to.
I'm on homemade custard at the minute.
Right. And I'm on RY6, just for sake of completeness. But you've got flavours there. I mean, would any of the three of you swap those flavours for a fag right this minute?
Oh,
No.
no.
No chance.
No. Now, why would anybody? Why would anybody? Why would a child who's thoroughly and a child, of course, can be 17 years and 364 days old? Why would children, why would a child swap when they like sweet flavours? According to everybody we're hearing, why would they swap to something that tastes like armpit? Really? Why? Can anybody answer that? Is there anybody here who can answer that question and tell me why? I'm seeing shaking heads.
No, it's a nonsense.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the flavour. You got the flavour, the smell, everything about. If you go from one of these things to the real tobacco cigarettes, there is nothing at all that is attractive to go in that direction.
Nothing. I mean, let's face it, I was a 60 a day man, and I cut down to 60 a day from 100 a day. I enjoyed fags, and I'm telling you now, I don't even like the smell of them anymore.
Yeah.
So the smell and the taste are, generally speaking, one and the same thing, and I just don't want to go there. Why would I? I just don't want to go there. And if I'm not going to go there, I cannot see why anybody else would. And
No.
it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, that was Al Jazeera. I assume did you see Jonathan Ross?
I did. I flicked through the whole programme just to find the interesting bits.
Yes. I kept on playing the Carla Bruni bit round and round, round, because I had to make sure I got the edit correct. Did you see it, John?
I didn't see it. No.
Oh,
I heard
right.
about it, and I'm not going to see it now as you play it either. Oh,
never mind. I'll send you the clip. It's on YouTube.
Oh.
Here, this is what happened on Jonathan Ross. I know it was made reference to last night. Marco made reference to it last night, but I don't care anymore. I'm going to play it in. It's only because I've taken the watermark out of the audio. Here it comes.
Carla, what are you doing there?
Me?
Yes,
Me?
you.
I'm just laughing.
No. What have you got in your hand down there? Are you smoking indoors, Carla Bruni?
Me?
Yes.
Me, no. Electronic cigarette.
What's in there?
Oh, no nicotine.
Nicotine.
No.
Marijuana?
Mist? No.
This is amazing. This is...
It's just a cigarette. Well, let's get back to this. I'm sorry, we interrupted there.
What the hell are you doing? No.
What are you doing? You're making a mockery.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah, so that, whoa, again. There you go. I mean, I'm sorry about the echo. My software's working, my brain isn't. So as you saw, Carla Bruni with an e-cig, she said no nicotine and no marijuana. But did you also notice that Philip Glenister had one in his hand? I saw that. You saw that, didn't you, Lorien?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did notice.
And it was a whistle tip one. It was a flat tip one. It wasn't a round tip one. I saw that. And then, of course, you've got Lee Evans. I've got to admit, I'm not sure whether that was a real fag or it was a fake one that you blow powder out of. It's difficult to tell, really.
It was a setup anyway, so I think it's kind of academic.
True enough. I think you're probably right. But this all points to the fact that e-cigs are becoming mainstream, and I can quite understand that there are certain people that are scared rigid by that. I mean, John, what do you make of it all?
Well, as I say, didn't see the clip, but if Philip Glenister's got one in his hand, I mean, he is a legend in my eyes. So they're clearly, well, they're clearly mainstream. You're gonna have the Sky stuff on later with Jodie Marsh and what have you. There are all manner of celebrities out there who use these things. There's not too many of them who go public with it though at the moment, and that's something we need to try and address as well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more and more of them probably will, now that Jodie's done her piece. What we'll do is we'll take the adverts, and when we come back out the adverts, we'll have a look at the Sky piece, because, yeah, and I've got some information about that as well. There are certain people who are a little bit unhappy, but we'll take the adverts, and when we come back, we'll have a look at the Sky piece, and then we'll go on and start talking about amendments, War and Peace. You'll be all right with that, won't you? See Lorien sitting there saying, I've read one of the documents, there's another 11 to go. Yes, there's a lot there. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
iVapour and iVapour Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iVapour.co.uk and iVapour-elixir.co.uk. iVapour and iVapour-elixir.co.uk are proud sponsors of VapourTrails.tv.
And we are back after the break with no echo this time. The reason being I didn't have the sound on while the adverts were on. And I want to take this opportunity to say sorry to Daz at Safer Cigs, but given the great wealth of documentation I've been ploughing through today, I didn't have time to put the new titles and advert together. It's great, but I'll do it for next week. I'm not going to get a chance now. Sav, what have they been saying in chat? Because they must have been saying a lot, and I do apologise for not coming to you before now, my dear.
No problem. They've had loads to say about the first video that you played. Liam D. Vapor said that regarding the ego, that doesn't look like a cigarette, and I bet it certainly doesn't taste like one.
Look like a used tampon.
Excuse me, don't make me laugh.
I did it on purpose, I'm sorry.
Egomaniac has said, at least they're shown more than lucky like these.
Yep.
Monomax said, stop with the gateway product nonsense already. Jeff Bennion brought up a point when they were talking about poisons, saying, doesn't wine also contain traces of poisons? Winter Rogue says, are we going to combat it? Ignorance is bliss, and the army of haters want most to continue with the bad messages. Kaz J says, big part of the problem is they can't separate tobacco and nicotine. Mark Shaw said, yes, but do you have decanted olive oil nearby? That's the new killer we need protecting from. And there was an awful lot of people, Jilsey being, Screwbag being two of them, that brought up the here we go with the won't someone think of the children.
Yeah, well, now, apparently, Lorien has been thinking of the children. I know you've got a lot to say on this one, Lorien. The floor is yours, full screen. Give it some.
Well, no, I'll tell you what's really getting on with about the thinking of the children thing, is that it kind of seems like nobody is actually thinking of the children or thinking about the way children think. And like you say, children count up to the age of a day less than 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What makes cigarettes appealing to children is the taboo. Now, since the 2007 ban, there has been a spike in the younger age groups and sort of up to the early 30s taking up smoking. Now, the more this country has become rabidly anti-smoking and the more we've kind of dragged cigarette smokers down and made them the scourge of humanity, the more interesting it has made it to children. That's the way the psychology works about it, and that is being completely ignored in all of this. All they want to do is kind of go, oh, there's a bubblegum flavour, then children are going to want to smoke it, and that just isn't how it works. It's to do with the temptation and the taboo, and they just want to use this think of the children argument to kind of manipulate the mums and the dads and all the kind of think of the children brigade, and it's really manipulative and it's getting on my wick.
Now, I don't want you to sit on the fence. I want you to tell it how it is. Seriously. Just, you know, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I started smoking when I was 8. And legitimately, because my granddad gave us a fag. The story's an old one. I won't bore everybody with it now. But I was told I hadn't got to. It was a bad habit. You don't want to do it. It's not good for you and blah, blah, blah. When I was 11, going to school, because I'd been stopped from doing it and because I remembered what seemed like a nice experience, there was no way I was going to stop. I had the opportunity then. I was away from home. I wasn't getting taken to school because in those days parents didn't drive their kids everywhere. You had to get the bus or walk, you know, exercise and stuff like that. McDonald's hadn't been invented. By the time I was 12, I was smoking 20 a day. And there was a free song. We used to go into the, how can I put this, into the netties. There'd be a whole load of lads together in the lavies, the gentlemen's lavies in the school, and you'd put somebody on guard. And the big thing was, don't tell us until they're at the end of the corridor, because there was the thrill of getting caught. That's how taboo it was. The whole thing was about being thrilled. John, is your experience, does that echo any of that?
With regards to starting smoking, no. I was late to smoking. Didn't start till I was probably about 20-ish. But started smoking because I was buying cigarettes for other purposes at the time. And found some left over in the morning, and yeah, they served a purpose.
Yeah, I've got no idea what other purpose you could be on about.
And it was there for me. It was yeah. I was brought up well by my parents that cigarettes and smoking was bad. But you know, once you start buying them and they're there in front of you, that was it for me. And, 20 years later.
Well, yes. I mean, you know, whatever anybody's reasons for starting, I think anybody that's younger than, I'm going to say 70. I'll say 75. Yeah, anybody younger than 75 will have had the "this is not good for you" thrown at them. I can guarantee that would be the case. I had it. Sav, you'll have had it.
Definitely.
And Lorien, you've had it. I mean, my own daughter told her exactly the same thing. I couldn't tell her that she hadn't to smoke because I did. All I did say was, if you do, I want to know. And even she, with that, I mean, that was carte blanche. There you are, a dad saying, if you want a fag, have one. You know, because I couldn't say anything else. One thing I've tried never to be is a hypocrite. And yet she still hid it. Not because she was going to get wrong, because she wouldn't. She hid it because that's what they do. If it's not taboo, there's no interest, is there?
Yeah.
And it's forbidden fruit every time.
Absolutely, forbidden fruit's exactly the word. And this is something I think that I'll call them our friends in high places in the EU and in Parliament, just don't seem to realise. I'm beginning to... Were they ever kids? Did they ever go to university and roll a joint with tobacco in it? I mean, you must have gone to university with somebody that's an MP now, did you, John?
Not that I know about, thankfully. But yeah, I'm just trying to conjure up in my head image of Linda McAvan as a young person, and I don't want to go there, to be honest.
I don't think she was ever young. I don't think she was ever young. I think she was born at 47, aging her a little bit. Sav, have we got anything coming through from chat? Because I can see your eyes are doing the flit, the Sav flit. I call it the Sav flit now. You can see it, and the furrow comes in. What are they saying?
We've had absolutely loads of people saying about, well, if kids or teenagers are going to smoke, they're going to do it because of the whole forbidden fruit thing. We all know that. And surely e-cigs are going to be better than normal cigarettes. And we've had a couple of comments. Screwbag said, I'm tired of hearing that e-cigs will normalise smoking, as though smokers are a subhuman species or something. And MJ Jones has just said, kids and young adults start smoking in school and university. We should ban education as it's a gateway to smoking.
If we've got an award for comment of the week, that one's won it. All agreed?
Yeah.
All in favour?
Yeah.
Against?
Definitely.
Abstentions? Carried. I had to go through it at proper speed. The fact of the matter is, let's be honest about it, and I think we all need to be honest about this. I've got a grandson now. He's coming up 5 months old. He's a little bruiser. He's a cracking kid. When he gets of an age where he starts getting a bit curious about, and I hope by the time he gets to that age, fags are kind of not around and e-cigs are the thing. When he starts getting curious, Grandad will be, me, I'll be the first one to make sure that he gets one to try. I'll give him one that's got a nasty flavour in it, just in case, but I'd rather he did that than went and started smoking fags, for the simple reason, and it's a very, very simple reason, I know what's in these things. I can control what's in these things. If there's an issue with flavourings, I can give them straightforward glycerin, because I've been inhaling that for 40 years. I can give them nicotine at a level I know is not going to do him any damage, and that's basically it. He doesn't need any more than that. Maybe a little bit of something to thin it down. So I know it's going to be as safe as it possibly can be. If he likes it and he wants to carry on, I would have no qualms giving the lad a cup of coffee. Weak coffee. You know, what parent hasn't done that? Same with tea. Same with alcohol. Brought my daughter up like that. Rather than forbid her from drinking, we showed her that moderation and sense was the way to go, and she's never ever had an issue. She's never had a problem with alcohol. I, on the other hand, was forbidden flat out by me dad with the flat of his hand and the tip of his boot. Trust me, I've still got the scars to prove it. And I had a problem with alcohol when I went to college because I just went hog wild. My daughter never did. She's always been, it's daddy speaking, so I'm biased, but she's never had a problem with alcohol. And I can only speak as I find. Sorry, I'm getting on my high horse again, and I really shouldn't do that, should I? Said we were going to look at the Sky stuff, didn't we? Is there anything else from chat before we do, Sav?
Just one comment that's just come in from Funny Trickster, who says, crazy thing is, I have some friends who bought e-cigs, yet their 17-year-old son is smoking roll-ups. So, if teenagers are going to smoke, they're going to smoke.
It's absolutely right. It is absolutely right. If they're going to smoke, they're going to smoke, and I'd far rather, if they were going to use nicotine, use them in one of these things. Be much, much better for them. And I think Ms. Jodie Marsh actually gets that. Watch this from Sky. Again, there are some issues, but it's worth having a look.
This is a new kind of cigarette, a tobacco-free electronic cigarette that reproduces all the pleasures of smoking. But schools up and down the United Kingdom are trying to stop them out.
There is a danger that you could start on e-cigarettes, you could become addicted or become used to nicotine, and because you are used to the taste of nicotine, then you could move on to smoking real cigarettes.
That view is not backed up by the statistics, though. Almost half of ex-smokers say they'd used e-cigarettes as a way of helping them to quit smoking, but their use amongst children was said to be extremely rare, with only 1% of young people who have never smoked saying they'd tried e-cigarettes once or twice, and none said they'd continue to use them.
I don't think they're popular amongst a wide range of young people as such.
I
think they're popular within certain groups, like not within everyone, because I personally haven't tried one and no, lots of my friends haven't.
I think if you didn't ban them, he'd be agreeing with a form of smoking, because initially that's what it is.
This company in Swansea manufactures the liquid nicotine used in e-cigarettes. There are dozens of flavours, and critics say that has particular appeal to children and teenagers. They contain no tobacco though, which means there's no tar, so the risk to health is likely to be much lower, but not enough research has been done to be 100% sure. For that reason they've been banned in many countries, but here they're not even regulated. The industry says there's no need for regulation because the products are not a medicinal cure for smoking tobacco.
They're not actually necessarily to help you quit smoking in the sense of like an NRT product would help you quit smoking. Like a nicotine replacement therapy product is designed to help you quit smoking and gradually wean off the nicotine until you've stopped completely. With electronic cigarettes, it's a way of almost carrying on smoking, but without any of the damage that comes from smoking.
The question is whether e-cigarettes should be promoted as a healthier alternative to smoking. Should TV advertising like this be encouraged? Or is there a risk that it makes smoking look like an acceptable norm? Richard Suchet, Sky News.
I have used them myself. I used vape stick to give up smoking, and to be honest, I found them to be highly effective. I completely agree that they shouldn't be used in schools. From what I gather, they're not aimed at under 18s anyway. But, you know, in this country, there's an estimated 20% of people smoking real cigarettes, which is something like 12 million people. And 1 million of those have switched to e-cigarettes. So, you know, I think that being that the risks are a lot less, they're a lot less harmful, they're cheaper and they don't smell, I think they are a much better alternative.
But I suppose the question is, how much do we really know about the risks? Has there been enough research to know whether there is any potential damage that they could do?
Well, it's been proven scientifically that the vapour released from them is actually harmless. And what they're comparing it to is that basically having an e-cigarette is potentially doing the same thing to you as drinking a cup of coffee. So, you know, if that's been proven scientifically, then I think, OK, they haven't been around long enough to know the long-term effects. But, you know, what has these days? So many things are new. You know, we've got new things coming onto the market all the time. I personally think these are healthier and better for you than real cigarettes. As I say, I've used them myself and they did help me to give up smoking. The alternative is you try and quit without them, or you carry on smoking, which can eventually lead to death and disease.
That there was Jodie Marsh, who, I'm here to tell you, I don't think she was briefed. I do not think anybody sat down and briefed her. But I do know that Catherine Devlin of ECCA has been spitting fury about that they are not regulated. Because I know for a certain fact, because she said so, that she told them times without number that they were regulated, very effectively regulated, as Rebecca Taylor and Chris Davis and Mr. Engstrom and Mr. Fjellner have already discovered. And as you'll see from amendments later, if you ever read all 650 pages of them, because God, they do half go on a little bit. But you, John, what did you make of that?
I thought a lot of that was good. It still had some questionable bits in it, but the fact that they're bringing in the Ash results that say, well, actually, all that stuff that we just said there is rubbish because Ash is saying this, that was good. I must admit, when I heard it was Jodie Marsh, preconceptions and things, I was fearing for the worst, but I thought she did very, very well. And if she wasn't briefed and said that, I think that's fantastic. There will be an element of people saying Jodie Marsh talking about science. Well, yeah, we can ignore that, but you know, she's in no worse position to be there saying those things than the people who were saying the stuff prior to that. So
exactly right. And
I thought, on balance, it was quite good.
Yes, your thoughts, Lorien?
Stuff.
What did you make of it, Lorien?
Well, no, again, I think there's, of all the reports we've seen, I wasn't expecting one from Sky, which I wasn't wincing and twitching and drooling over. I think it did all right, and I can see why Catherine is bloody furious, to be honest with you, because not only did they imply, or outright say there was no regulation, but the way they edited it made it look as though not only was there no regulation, but ECCA was saying there was no regulation, and ECCA wanted to keep it as though there was no regulation. I think that one small segment was very uncomfortable to watch, because obviously ECCA would never say that, but they were very much made it come across as though that's what ECCA was saying, that they were happy with the lack of regulation.
Yes, I would agree with you there, and I think that's what's annoyed Catherine more than anything else, and it would me. The bit, I presume he was a head teacher, right at the top of that piece, sitting in there saying that once children get used to the taste of nicotine, they may well go on and what the hell are you on about? There's a guy that's never even smelt a fag, never mind smoked one, and has no clue what an e-cig is. This is a story, I feel, that's being blown out of all proportion. I quite understand why schools might not want their pupils using e-cigs, but I also know that schools are massively in favour of handing out NRT in terms of patches and lozenges, but not gum, because gum gets stuck under the desk, you know. Patches and lozenges to kids from the age of 12 who have been smoking, and yet they've got a downer on e-cigs. I really don't quite get that. Sav, I've got the feeling that chat will have something to say before we hit the adverts, am I right?
Yeah, chat have. Regarding that head teacher, Rachel Coffey says, thank heaven that view is not backed up by statistics. FMRL says, so by that definition, eating wine gums when you're a child will make you an alcoholic.
Yes.
Very Boring has said, how come nobody they talk to has any real concept of flavour? Oldgit has said that room is what all e-liquid rooms should look like if they're going to be selling e-liquid to the public. Parrotflock has said, why don't they ever consider the startup costs involved? Kids aren't going to spend all that when they could just buy a packet of cigarettes and a lighter. And Rachel Coffey has said, there is a vast difference between a medical cessation product and a consumer alternative, even if you call nic addiction a disease, which it isn't. In fact, if you're using nicotine with your e-cig, it proves that you're not treating the disease, you're actively keeping it going.
Well, absolutely right, because I don't think you can treat a disease with the very thing that caused it in the first place. That makes no sense to me. You might be able to stop it from happening, you know, like flu, what do you call it, flu vaccinations, that kind of thing. But you can't cure it. You can't cure flu by giving somebody more flu. And you certainly can't cure a nicotine addiction by giving somebody more nicotine, because we know they're not medicinal products. Apparently, so does Linda McAvan. I'm going to play the adverts in, but while I do that, I need a vote out of everybody in chat. We do need to talk about these amendments because there's millions of them, but we're not going to get very in-depth with them because there's just so many to read, and I really have not had time to fully analyse everything yet. Let's just say it's a little bit scary. But Ms McAvan has been interviewed, and if people would like to see that, if they think they can restrain themselves, then I'll play it in after the adverts, but I need votes from everybody in chat. Do you want to hear about amendments, or do you want Ms McAvan before the amendments? Vote now. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Well, you've had your chance to vote. Welcome back to VT Talk here on Thursday the 22nd of May, a week before the Envy Committee actually starts considering amendments. But before we get there, Sav, what have chat said? Do they want to see Ms McAvan?
They do.
They do?
They do.
Oh dear. Right. Then Ms McAvan you shall see. Because I actually didn't drop it in until right at the end of the adverts when I got told. So here she comes. Yes. 45 milligram and laced a double whiskey. Here we go.
Well, today about 28% of European citizens smoke. That varies from about 40% in some countries to about 15% in Sweden, which is the lowest. The average is about 25%. But the biggest worry for me is that more young people smoke than adults in the European Union. And we know that children, not adults, start smoking. Most people start smoking before they're 18 and a lot before the 15th birthday. So we have to do something to tackle the recruitment of children and young people into smoking, and that's what this new law from Europe's about. Because for the industry, that's how they sell their products. I mean, look at this product, for example. Here's a nice, what looks like a perfume package. That's actually a pack of cigarettes, and we know from the tobacco companies themselves it's designed to attract young women. But we know it's children, young girls who are buying these. So this kind of packaging we think should go. We want packaging like this. This is picture warnings on packaging. If you look at that package, the first thing you see are these rotting lungs. We know from research that when people see that, not long-standing smokers, but young people who are starting to smoke, it makes them think twice. And that's why we want packaging like this, with big photographs, big warnings, because that puts people off smoking. The tobacco industry says it has no impact, then why have they employed 70-odd new lobbyists to lobby the European Parliament if they think it doesn't have an impact? Well, we've taken a lot of evidence about e-cigarettes, and the evidence I've seen tells me that for people who smoke, e-cigarettes can help in terms of harm reduction. So I don't want to see e-cigarettes disappear from the market, so I want them to be available for smokers. What I don't want, though, is to see young people start using e-cigarettes who've never smoked. And we have got some problems with that. In my own country, schools are having to ban e-cigarettes at the moment because children are bringing them to school. And we have no laws. We have got no regulation of e-cigarettes. So what I want is a regulatory framework. I'm not proposing it be a medicines regulation, but I do think we need some regulation about the quality of e-cigarettes, about the manufacturing processes to make sure they're safe, because they mainly come from China, and even the companies themselves know there are problems with the way they're manufactured, and we need to make sure they're available widely on the market so that they can compete with cigarettes. And that's why medicines regulation wouldn't work in many countries, because in many countries you can only buy medicines at a pharmacy. You can't buy them when you're out in a pub on a Friday night. So that's why I propose a system of regulation which doesn't go as far as it making the medicines, but is nevertheless will stop them becoming gateway products for young people. Well, the WHO's Framework Convention is a really, really important convention. It's one of the first public health international laws, and every single European country has signed up to it, plus the EU as a whole, and we've got legal obligations to implement that law, and that law asks us to bring in the picture warnings on cigarettes. It asks us to tackle young people and smoking. So this is what this new law is doing. It's helping us implement a legally binding law that we've all signed up to freely. Well, in the United States, they do have a pre-authorization system for all new tobacco products. That's managed in the US by the FDA, the Food and Drugs Administration. We don't have a European FDA, but we do have in each country national regulators who regulate health products, we have ministries, and ministries, in my view, would have to set up a regulatory framework. It seems a little bit strange to me that we would allow tobacco companies to place new products on the market, and then we try and catch up and find out what was in them after the event. We don't allow medical devices on the market like that. In fact, we're going to tighten up the laws on medical devices. Tobacco products are harmful, they kill people, and in my view, governments should be able to see what the tobacco companies are putting on the market before they do it and regulate them accordingly.
That was Linda McAvan answering 5 questions with Parliament magazine, EU Parliament magazine. And I'm just going to say this before we get any further. If you listen to what she said about e-cigs, she wants to see the end of nicotine use. That's simple. She sees e-cigs as only being for current smokers, no new recruits. She wants to see the end of nicotine usage. And in as much as she doesn't want medicinal regulation, her amendment, which I spent some time looking at and which Clive Bates has looked at, and I exhort you to go to Clive Bates' site, clivebates.com, and have a look at his teardown of it. It's basically pulled straight out of medicines regulation. I'm going to go to Lorien first because I've learned some new words. She wasn't very happy, were you, Lorien?
I wasn't, and that's for a myriad of reasons. And very quickly, the thing she picked up on about the packaging and about the appealing to children, she's quite happy to spout the age that children bring up smoking, but they are still ignoring why children take up smoking. Children are not taking up smoking because of electronic cigarettes. That has not happened over the last 5 years. Children are taking up smoking because it's taboo and it's appealing. The e-cigarettes thing is just mental. The idea that the only people that can have it are the ones that have discovered it and are currently using it. The rest of you can essentially tuck off and die, is essentially what she's saying. All those kids that she's so worried about are still going to take up smoking. All of them are still going to take up smoking, and more. At some point in the future, they are going to need an option. She's taken that option away from them.
Absolutely. John, your take?
I have to say, I couldn't hear a word that any of you said there. So if you can hear me, I'll just rabbit on anyway.
I can, yes. I'll try and alter things.
I mean, listening to that, it's the same old stuff. I mean, I would like to think that Linda is quite pleased that you know, she doesn't want to see kids start using these things, and Ash have confirmed in their recent study that they're not. You know, say electronic cigarette use has increased steadily among smokers and ex-smokers, but current use among those who have never smoked remains 0%. Sustained use is rare and confined to children who currently or have previously smoked. Children. So I'd have thought she'd be quite pleased with some of the findings that are coming out, because they flatly contradict the things that she's saying. And the school stuff. Well, just don't get me started on the school stuff. The schools have brought in a ban. It's a proactive measure. They have not had to bring in a ban, as she's saying. They have brought in a ban because they are proactively looking to prevent kids bringing this stuff to school. That's entirely different from the message she's portraying.
Absolutely, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's kind of a precursor. Can you hear me all right now, John?
Yes.
That's a precursor to all of these amendments that were coming in. Now, I think we do need to touch on them, but before we do, I'm going to throw it across to chat and get their comments, because I can see that Sav needs to vent, if I'm to be truthful. What have they been saying, Sav?
A load of people straight away picked up when she said Sweden has the lowest smoking rates, and everyone said, could that possibly be because of snus?
I wonder.
Rachel Coffey says, never occurs to her why it's Sweden. FMRL says Sweden. There's the thing. Doug Phillips has said, regarding putting the warnings on the packets, when people buy them, you look at the packet and just look at it, laugh and go, yeah, that'll never happen to me. Those things don't work.
Well, you're invulnerable when you're 17, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. Not Me has said, someone should tell her that children were probably smoking normal cigarettes before they even picked up an e-cig. It's not as if they're just going to go and pick one up. Funny Trickster said, stop kids from using e-cigs. Let them smoke proper cigarettes behind the bike sheds. Brilliant idea. And he also said, people buy cigarettes that they can afford. They don't care about the packaging. Marco has said, I think the fact that this vid is for Parliament magazine says it all. And Dark Drug says, what happened to government serving and representing the people rather than controlling the people?
Well, that's exactly right, isn't it? And to be honest, having read through some of the amendments that have gone in there, I'm not going to pull them up on screen. There are 650 pages. Now, you've read some, haven't you, Lorien? What do you make of what you've read thus far?
Well, certainly the first, I don't know how many pages was the first one that I got actually.
55.
There's still very much, the whole pharmaceutical angle is still there, and in terms of there seems to be a lot of opinion there need to be medicalised. And of course the big killer in all of this is the little one that Linda McAvan drops in the hope possibly that no one will notice, in amongst all of her very reasonable suggestions, is the lack of flavours and the idea that this can be a functioning way of moving away from tobacco with an utterly flavourless system. That just boggles the mind.
It does a bit. John, what did you make of it all? What bits have you read?
Not enough, but just picking up on what Lorien said and what we heard on those Sky news messages earlier. Taking away the flavours won't help because, as somebody pointed out on Sky, that people get used to the flavour of nicotine.
Oh yes,
that could lead them on to cigarettes.
Yeah, it's very used to the flavour of nicotine, there, boy.
Yes.
Yes, love it, marvellous stuff.
No, I mean, my concern with all these amendments is that they'll go through and in your time-honoured style of for, against, and abstentions. They'll end up with a document that makes no sense in its entirety, and no one's going to review it in its entirety again in the same way that's been done so far. So we'll end up with stuff that just doesn't stack up when you look at it all together.
Well, you're exactly right. You're exactly right in what you say. I mean, I've spent from 3 o'clock through until probably about 7:30, I should imagine, because I did need to go and try and make myself look beautiful for the show. Reading through as much of this 600 and God knows how many pages document as I could. And I have seen some amendments that have been made with the best of intentions. One from Frederick Rees, who wanted to make sure that e-cigs wouldn't be medicinalised, so had the amendment to make them tobacco products. And you think, yes, great, go for it. Then you read through a little bit further, and if they are tobacco products, if that one gets through, if that gets passed, there are further amendments later on. If they go through, internet sales will be banned. And there's loads of amendments to say cross-border sales should be internet sales, distance sales. In other words, if you don't buy them in the shop, you can't buy them. Internet sales would be banned. So on the one hand, yeah, make sure they're not medicines. That's brilliant. But if these others get through, you can't buy them on the web. You've got to have a bricks and mortar shop. And there's a whole host of stuff like that. You can't just look at the amendments that are specific to e-cigs. You've got to tie it all together. And it's going to take me till this time next week, I've got to say, probably to go through everything. There's 3 days worth of reading here. There's a lot of reading to be done, and I would exhort everybody to go and read your way through them. At the moment though, having skimmed through about 300 pages of it, because I learned how to speed read, at the moment I'm going with the Taylor, Davies, Engstrom, Fjellner set of amendments. They are the ones that I think we all need to be writing to MEPs, MPs, aides, everybody. Get hold of them and say, these are the amendments that we want you to follow. The Davies, Taylor, Engstrom, Fjellner, whatever order they happen to come in, they're the ones we need to be supporting. Sav, quick one from you, and then it'll be Lorien, then John, and then we're away.
Chat are talking about mainly amendment number 444.
Oh, if that goes through, we're screwed.
Yes. And they're quite shocked that that's even in there, never mind anything else. People talking about, yeah, the ban on internet sales. It's just unbelievable, some of the stuff that they found in there.
It absolutely is. Lorien, ladies first, what's your final thoughts before we say goodnight for the time being?
Final thoughts. I got a letter from my MP asking to meet up and have a chat about this whole thing. So it's going to be happening soon, and probably can do with some luck on that one.
Oh, the best of luck with that. And if you want to have a phone call before you go or anything like that, just let you know where I am.
Yeah, thank you.
You can always catch me. I'm quite, and you know, I mean, it's a long way down to where you are, but I'm sure Andy Sutton would come along as well, or send somebody at any rate. John, your final thoughts?
Well, as I say, a lot of reading to be done, and then also looking forward to what comes out next month when Jeremy Means stands up in front of the nicotine cessation products convention, or whatever it's called. So yeah, talking to the MHRA at the minute as well. Yes,
the MHRA does have quite a lot to worry us all with, but I want to say thank you to Lorien, ladies first, trying to remember me manners, and thanks to John for joining me tonight, as ever, thanks to Sav for doing the job she does, and it cannot have been easy tonight, because I bet chat's gone absolutely wild, have they?
They have. They've gone absolutely bonkers.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle, if it is a battle, is not by any stretch of the imagination over yet. I'm going to be tweeting like a very, very tweety thing over the next few days as I plough my way through all of this. And for whatever anything I say is worth, I'm just going to let my brain dump. At the moment, I think we need to be contacting MEPs. If you go through, you'll see who the antis are. You'll see the names of the antis. Get onto them and tell them that you need them to be supporting the Taylor, Davies, Fjellner, Engstrom, whichever order it is, their set of amendments. Failing which, Callinan's amendments are the only two that I can make any real sense out of, I've got to be honest. The rest of them have shown their true colours. It's going to be up to us. We need to make our voices heard. I'm sure ECCA will be doing that, will you not?
We will.
Absolutely. So let's all get together and really fight this one. Let's start the email campaign, get it going. Tweet like hell, email like hell. Do what Lorien's done. Get time with your MP, get time with your MEP if you can. It all needs doing before they start discussing this all on Wednesday. On that note, I think we're time up, are we not, Sav?
We're 2 minutes over, but I couldn't get a word in edgeways.
I'm sorry, I do apologise, but honestly, it's too important not to say. So thanks to everybody involved, thanks to Kat, who's been helping out, and doing everybody on the team, everybody everywhere, and thanks for joining us so much indeed. I didn't even get time to play the Knees advert. Till we see you, well, I'll see you tomorrow, but till we see you next time on VT Talk, take care, see you later, bye bye.